What's weird about being Gen Z is that technically we have more opportunities than any generation before us. Infinite information, infinite career paths, infinite ways to make money, infinite entertainment, infinite freedom, and yet somehow everything feels impossible. Not impossible in the dramatic movie sense where the world is ending. More like this constant invisible pressure where even basic life feels weirdly harder than it should. Like everybody's exhausted before life has even properly started. And the worst part is, it's hard to explain without sounding lazy or ungrateful. Because from the outside, Gen Z looks fine. We have phones, internet, convenience, food delivery, AI streaming services, remote work, all this stuff older generations never had. So when people hear Gen Z struggling, the response is usually, you guys have it easy. But I honestly think that completely misses what's actually happening. Because the problem isn't survival anymore, the problem is psychological overload. Every single aspect of modern life now competes for your attention, identity, time, money, energy, confidence, and future all at once. And humans genuinely were not built for this level of constant pressure. A normal person today wakes up and within 5 minutes sees somebody richer than them, fitter than them, more successful than them, younger than them, doing better than them, somebody traveling the world, somebody buying a house, somebody going viral, somebody claiming they made $40,000 this month from some random online business before breakfast. That is not normal. Previous generations compared themselves to maybe their coworkers, neighbors, classmates, cousins, a manageable circle. Now your competition is basically the top 0.001% of humanity at all times. And your brain doesn't know the difference between seeing success and personally failing against it. So even when your life is objectively okay, it still feels like you're behind. And honestly, I think that feeling of constantly being behind is one of the defining emotions of Gen Z. Everybody feels late, everybody feels unprepared, everybody feels like they missed some invisible tutorial everyone else got, and social media made this way worse, but not for the reason people think. I don't even think insecurity is the biggest issue anymore. The real problem is that social media turned life into a performance. Your hobbies aren't just hobbies anymore. Your music taste is an identity, your workouts are content, your relationships are content, your opinions are content, your room is content. Everything feels public now, and because everything feels public, everything feels judged. Even relaxing feels weird now because there's always this guilt in the background telling you that you should probably be doing something more productive. You open your phone for 10 minutes and immediately see some 20-year-old entrepreneur waking up at 4 a.m. telling you that you're wasting your life. And after hearing that enough times, your brain starts treating rest like failure. That's why so many people now feel burnt out before they've even built anything yet. Because modern culture convinced us that every second of our lives should be optimized. Optimize your sleep, optimize your body, optimize your attention span, optimize your habits, optimize your productivity system, optimize your side hustle, optimize your morning routine. Gen Z basically turned being human into a live service game. You're never done. There's always another upgrade, another habit, another flaw to fix. And eventually self-improvement stops feeling empowering and starts feeling like maintenance. Like if you stop improving for 1 second, life punishes you for it. And this pressure gets even worse because the economy actually is rough right now. And this is important because people love pretending Gen Z problems are entirely mental. They're not. Housing prices are insane. Rent is insane. Education costs exploded. Entry-level jobs want 3 years of experience. Internships require internships. Wages barely moved compared to living costs. People did what they were told to do and still ended up unstable. That completely changes how a generation thinks. Older generations were promised that if you worked hard, you'd eventually reach stability. Gen Z got told to work hard for the possibility of stability. And that one word changes everything, psychologically, because uncertainty becomes permanent. The job market now feels less like building a career and more like trying to survive an algorithm. People send hundreds of applications into black holes. Resumes get filtered by AI before humans even see them. Companies ghost people constantly. Entire industries shift overnight. Layoffs happen every few months. Nobody feels secure anymore. And security used to be what made adulthood feel possible. Now even successful people feel unstable. You can make decent money and still feel financially trapped. That's the scary part. A lot of Gen Z isn't scared of hard work. They're scared that hard work no longer guarantees anything. And honestly, looking at reality, that fear isn't irrational. Then there's the attention span issue, which people oversimplify constantly. I don't think Gen Z is lazy. I think our brains got overstimulated. Modern content moves insanely fast. Every app is competing for dopamine. Every platform is engineered to hold your attention for 1 more second. So now normal life feels slow, reading feels harder, studying feels harder, long conversations feel harder, patience feels harder, not because people are weak, but because our brains adapted to hyperstimulation, and the scary part is how invisible it is while it's happening. You don't notice your attention span shrinking, you just slowly stop being able to tolerate silence. That's why so many people feel restless all the time now. Even during entertainment, we're multitasking. A video is playing while we scroll another app, while replying to messages, while music plays in the background. The human brain never gets to fully rest anymore, which is probably why anxiety feels so common now too. There's also this weird loneliness problem nobody talks about correctly. People say Gen Z is isolated because of phones, but it's deeper than that. We lost third places, where people could just exist without spending money. Malls are dying. Parks feel empty. Everything costs money now. Everyone stays inside. Nobody wants awkwardness. Everyone cancels plans because they're mentally exhausted before they even leave the house. So now friendships require effort at a level they never used to. And online interaction tricks your brain into feeling socially full without actually satisfying loneliness. You can talk to people all day and still feel emotionally disconnected. That combination is brutal, especially because Gen Z is probably one of the most emotionally self-aware generations ever. People understand mental health more. People communicate emotions better. People are more open about struggles, but awareness doesn't automatically fix anything. Sometimes it just means you can describe your exhaustion more accurately, and honestly, humor became how Gen Z survives this. That's why so much Gen Z humor sounds deeply concerning. Burnout jokes, depression jokes, existential dread jokes, because irony feels safer than sincerity. Being genuine online is terrifying now. Everything gets judged instantly, mocked instantly, turned into content instantly. So people hide honesty inside jokes. And underneath all of this is probably the biggest issue of all: too many choices. That sounds backwards because freedom sounds good, but infinite choice destroys clarity. Previous generations had more rigid paths: job, marriage, house, kids. That obviously came with its own problems, but it also removed decision paralysis. Now Gen Z has infinite possible lives. You can become a creator, start a business, freelance, work remote, move countries, reinvent yourself constantly, learn almost anything online, which sounds exciting until every choice starts feeling like you're accidentally ruining your future. People spend years trying to find the perfect path instead of committing to any path, because when you can see every possible life online, choosing one means psychologically giving up all the others. That's exhausting. There's also identity pressure now that older generations didn't experience in the same way. You're not just expected to survive anymore. You're expected to become somebody unique. Stand out, build a brand, find your passion, monetize your talents, be attractive, be successful, be emotionally intelligent, be ambitious, be authentic. It's constant pressure to become a fully optimized human being. And if you fail, the internet gives you millions of examples of people your age succeeding harder than you. That's why normal progress barely even feels rewarding anymore. Because online, normal looks like failure. A regular healthy life barely gets represented online at all. You mostly see extremes: extreme success, extreme beauty, extreme productivity, extreme wealth. So the average person develops completely distorted expectations for what life is supposed to feel like, which creates this constant disappointment where reality never feels like enough. And I think that's why so many people feel emotionally tired all the time now. Not because life is impossible in the literal sense, but because modern life stacks pressure in invisible ways humans never evolved to handle. You're carrying economic pressure, social pressure, identity pressure, comparison pressure, future pressure, attention pressure, performance pressure, all at the same time, every single day. And nobody really gets to clock out anymore. There used to be separation between life and pressure. School ended, work ended, embarrassment ended, now nothing ends. Messages keep coming, news keeps updating, algorithms keep refreshing, trends keep changing. You're mentally on call 24 hours a day, and eventually your nervous system starts treating existence itself like work. But despite all this, I honestly don't think Gen Z is doomed. If anything, I think Gen Z sees through systems faster than previous generations did. People question work culture more, question education more, question consumerism more, question whether traditional success is even worth chasing anymore. And maybe that's a good thing, because a lot of old systems genuinely stopped making sense. People don't want to dedicate 50 years of their life to jobs they hate just to maybe afford a house at 43. That's not laziness. That's people realizing the trade-off feels broken. And I think that's why so many Gen Z people are trying alternative paths. Now, freelancing, remote work, content creation, online business, moving abroad, minimalism, living differently. Not because everyone wants to become an influencer, but because the traditional path feels increasingly unreachable, so people are trying to invent new ones. And honestly, maybe this generation's biggest strength is adaptability. Gen Z grew up during economic instability, social media, AI explosions, pandemics, housing crises, information overload. Constant change became normal, which means this generation learned how to pivot faster than most. That matters. Because the future probably belongs to people who can adapt emotionally and financially instead of people who just follow one stable path forever. Still though, I think the biggest thing Gen Z needs to hear is this: if life feels unusually hard right now, that doesn't automatically mean you're failing. A lot of modern systems are genuinely overwhelming by design, and humans were never meant to process this much information, comparison, stimulation, expectation, and uncertainty all at once. The scary part isn't that Gen Z is weak, it's that a lot of people are trying incredibly hard just to stay emotionally functional in an environment that constantly drains them. And honestly, the fact people are still trying at all is probably more impressive than we give ourselves credit for.